came to see me last month, I think it was.
But you guys are talking and in discussion,
Yeah.
and you are supporting them.
Well, they also asked me about airports, and I'm publicly supportive of expansion of Heathrow, and I've made that quite clear. The local economy is so dependent upon the airport, much more than I think people realise. I mean, the greatest number of letters my office have received, emails, second to badges now, I think, is air passenger duty. And it was Virgin Atlantic, it was Virgin who got all their staff to start emailing their local MP. Well, I guess we've got quite a lot, because a lot of people live around here who work at Heathrow and indeed at Gatwick, because Sandhurst has a rail link down to Gatwick. So I'm in favour of West of London Heathrow Gatwick expansion. I'm expecting that actually to happen. I'm persuaded on the sort of the noise front, and I live in a house where they come over every Sunday night, so I don't realise how annoying it can be on traffic and on air noise. But we have to recognise around here that one of the reasons that we are so blessed with a strong economy is the close proximity of the nation's hub airport. So we want it to be a hub airport, and it's not big enough. It's not got enough routes to China, to other growing parts of the world, so we have to address that. So we spoke about that as well.
Which runway would you go for there?
Oh, I don't know details. I'd actually go with the Economist plan with 4 runways, actually.
You said 4?
Yeah, the Economist, if you take the Economist, if you remember the issue, it was a few months ago, but there was a plan in it for 4 runways at Heathrow, a really significant development. My neighbour, whose constituency boundary is about 200 metres in that direction, the MP for Windsor, is not in favour, and that's the local political sensitivity.
So what it is you go over the big reservoirs, you pull the reservoirs in, you build 4 new runways there, the whole the centre of Heathrow moves effectively, and it's actually very, very attractive in terms of bringing the aircraft in further to the south, where the noise impact will actually be slightly less.
It's a good idea. It's a good plan. It's all in the mix. I'll be blunt with you. The decision on Heathrow was kicked into the long grass post 2015. It was in our Conservative manifesto not to go for a 3rd runway. Again, that was one of those situations where
I thought they changed it.
It's going to change. Policies change. Any more? I'm conscious that others haven't asked any questions yet. If there aren't any others, I'll come to you.
I'll ask a question on a totally different subject, which you partly touched on. It's the cost of training people. If you're a young person who happens to live in the UK, you wish to go to university, you say goodbye to £30,000+.
Yeah.
If you're the same young person who live in Wales, you'll say goodbye to a lot less. If you live in Scotland, you'll say goodbye to nothing. Yet, we all pay the same taxes.
Yeah.
If you're an older person using National Health Service in the UK, you get a different range of benefits and different range of costs than if you're a person using the Scottish National Health Service or the Welsh National Health Service. I don't quarrel with the fact that things are different. What I'd like to know is what we living here actually get as benefits which people in Scotland or Wales don't get because they've chosen to spend their money differently. No one at the moment can tell me how I say to my granddaughter and my own daughter who's about to go, actually, although you're going to have this huge debt, this is how we've got preferential treatment. So, how do I defend this?
Yeah. Again, predating becoming an MP, I was firmly against devolution for one nation. How can you have a Scottish Parliament, not an English Parliament? When I ran in 2005 in Wales, in my unwinnable sort of earned my spurs safest Labour seat in Wales experience in 2005, I didn't meet anybody who wanted a Welsh Assembly. The Welsh, only about 26% of the Welsh population voted for it.
25.
Yeah, it was
25 2 again.
Yeah, it was, and so actually the sort of constitutional, not constitutional, the devolution shambles that the previous government on, I just didn't like any of it, and I think that actually what it's bred is this now call for independence, which I'm also firmly against. Specifically, so the numbers, there isn't anything that I know of that England gets that Scotland and Wales don't in return. It is often said by the Scots that somehow this is payback for all of our oil. Okay, well actually that's not so true. It was American technology and it was English money that got it out of the ground. The maritime law is that if you extend the border of a land border, the sea border has to extend in the same direction, and we all know the England-Scotland border is like that. If you extend it out into the North Sea, quite a lot of those oil fields are English, not Scottish. And the other thing to bear in mind is when Scotland joined the Union in about 1707, something like that, they were bust because they'd invested a lot of money in the West Indies and the English bailed them out. Well, I want that money back, inflation proof, please. So the idea that somehow we owe them something, I find just wrong. Okay, we're one nation, Britain. We are British. And so this sort of perverse situation where if an English student goes to Scotland, they've got to pay tuition fees, but if a Polish student goes to Scotland, they don't. I mean, all of this is a mess. Okay, and it needs to be sorted. Now, the English MPs, and that's before we start talking about the West Lothian question, the fact that Scottish MPs come down, vote on English and Welsh issues. I mean, the whole thing is a mess, and it's wrong, and it needs to change. Now, most of us, I guess I'm public here, but most of us are holding our peace while we get on with this silly referendum nonsense. I don't know why they want to be independent in this world from Britain. I have no idea what the justification is. Wouldn't it be great to have a country called Wessex, one of the richest countries in the world? How far do you want to go back into history to define a nation? I find all of this, I find this all wrong and impossible to justify on the streets of Bracknell, this difference.
Have you noticed how the Scots seem to run the country though? Even your boss is
But
Cameron.
and up until 2008, apparently they were good with money. But what would have happened to Scotland if it was independent? It had to bail out RBS, it'd be bust. You know, and HBOS. You know, I mean, come on. We're stronger together. I want to be together. I support Scotland in the World Cup when England wasn't there in 1978. I'm comfortable with that, okay, because it's part of Britain. But we all should be treated the same. We should be all entitled to the same things. And you rightly point out that we're not. And I hope after the independence of referendum in Scotland, and I think it's going to go the way of stay together, we go down this path of Devo Max Plus and all this sort of stuff, I think you will see the English MPs saying, well, hang on a minute, we need to stop all of this, we should all have the same entitlements wherever we are in Britain. And we shouldn't have to sort of buy them off with yet more extras to stay part of the union. I think that would be wrong. And the final thing I would say is that if they do make the decision to go independent, the remarkable situation as it currently stands is they will vote for independence. In the general election 2015, they will still elect MPs to Westminster. So you could get a Labour government on the basis of the extra 50 Labour MPs in Scotland governing England. I mean, it's beyond comprehension. So I'm hopeful that things will not go down that path, and I am hopeful that we're actually going to go back to treating ourselves as all being British. I'm British, I'm English. On a bad day, you might even get me saying I'm European. I'm comfortable with that, but at the top, I'm British. And I think everybody should feel that.
Does Wales and Scotland get a little pot, England gets
Yeah,
pot,
there's
and
a-
then they can spend the money
Yes,
as
I
they
mean,
please?
and it's very difficult to work out how much money countries get in the constituent parts. I mean, Wales, the Welsh economy is over 70% public sector, 70% state. Do we take that into account about the amount of money that these countries receive? Scotland is about 58, 60%. It's not 60% around here, trust me. So in addition to the tuition fees thing and the health and education, where they get spent more money per head on the health and education in Scotland than here, and the same in Northern Ireland as well. It's you could sort of understand it, and you could sort of accept it if we had money in the bank, but we don't. We're in debt up to our eyeballs, and I think it's about time that everyone pulled their weight equally.
Can I make 2 points? One is there's a lot of Welsh, and I've been recently to
Yeah.
Anglesey, who are not in favour of devolution,
Yeah.
which is great.
The
The
majority.
other thing is the health service, which you've highlighted. A relative of ours had to be taken to
Yeah.
hospital. emergency ambulance.
Yeah,
How long did it take that ambulance to arrive?
yeah, I know Wales have got
6.5 hours.
I know, Wales have got problems.
It's not just the problem goes back to the Barnet agreement.
Well, it's the Barnet Forum in 1980, because that's all
That's
tied
far
up
before
with
than the other one.
oil and everything else, and
Yeah.
I
And that was
personally,
happening.
you try talking to people in the northeast of England about these issues, just across the border, it's much more stark in those parts of the country where you've only got drive assistance and suddenly things are different. It needs addressing, for sure it needs addressing in short order.
I've got a daughter who sent me to ask a question. She's studying pharmacy, and she says she's very discouraged with her friends as well, because people are coming and they're telling them that there are no jobs, and things like that. So she said I should ask you as a local MP about job creation, and some of her friends have opted out because they said at the end of the 4 years, because it's a master's degree,
Yeah.
there will be over 30,000 in debt and they will not get any jobs. So
Well, the number of issues in there. First of all, if you allow me to separate, and I will come to it, this idea that everyone should get a degree, I think was one of the worst things to targets that the last government made. 50% of people go to university, because the reason it was because not only did it mean people taking on debts to do it, but it was also, it was sort of saying to people, do that and you're going to have a job, and it's going to be a well-paid job. That's just not how economies work. And when I went to university, it was about 12 to 14% of people went to university. Going to university was actually something that the minority did. It was something you did if you had you were academic, and increasingly universities moved away from that. And I don't think that that's necessarily good for the country, but I also don't think it's fair on the individuals concerned, because they go, as you rightly say, £9,000 a year for 4 years, £36,000. So they're already in debt before they've even started trying to buy a house or whatever. And as you rightly say, they come out and more people have got degrees, so the competition for jobs is greater. And then the other problem is that the courses that are set by the universities are not necessarily set with X number of jobs at the end available. So lots of people go and do pharmacy, for example. Do we know that are the number of places at university doing pharmacy, does that fit the number of jobs that we're going to need in pharmacy going forward? I suspect not. And it used to be that things were married better. So I think what I would say to that is that we're not going to stop taking drugs as a nation anytime soon. So of all of the things to be training to do pharmacy is not a bad thing to have chosen, because going back to the aging society, there's a lot of drugs. I'm sure there's a lot of drugs consumed in this room. Prescription drugs. So maybe recreational ones as well. But so I think pharmacy is not going to be an area that's going to be cut. But where there is a problem, I don't know the details, but I'm suspecting that they're probably training too many pharmacists.
yeah.
The area where we perhaps could develop is in the pharmaceutical